And he, meaning Sulaiman bin Suhaim, was from amongst them. He was a superstitious person. From those people, like those believing in soothsayers and fortune tellers and so on, and sacrificing to the jinn and believing in evil omens and so on. He was from them. And he lied upon the sheikh. And he wrote a booklet that the people would laugh at due to his false accusations. That he lied to a degree that the people are reading, even the average person reading it, say, no human being would say that. You're lying. So they would laugh at the book because they know that this man was Imagine. And a person would say, well, didn't he think he was going to get caught and called out? There are people today who do the same. They will lie and fabricate, thinking that even if I grab a few people in the net, right, who don't spot my lying and fabrication, then they will believe me. And you find innovators like that. This Gowthri was one of them. And you find them even amongst those who are callers in Britain, Kadhabeen, who lie upon Ahlul Sunnah, lie upon the Salafis, hoping that if I get enough views, maybe 10,000 people will believe me. Even if 50,000 don't, I've got 10,000, that's a big number. To them it's just about how many people can I rope in? Like Shaitan will lie, whether one believes him or a million believe him. He will lie. Lie against the Prophet, lie against the Deen, lie against Revelation, lie against the Quran. Shaitan doesn't stop. You say, well, why does he lie? He lies because he's an enemy of Allah. And the enemies of Allah lie. And they deceive. And they support Iblis and his army against the people of truth. And that's what you see in the world today. What do you see with all those people that oppose Islam? I don't say that every single last one of them is a calculated enemy of Islam. Some of them are just ignorant. They don't know any better. They've never been taught. It's not that they are, people who are deviated by design, that they've thought about the concept and everything they've rejected. I've decided to be an enemy. No, many people aren't. But there's enough of them that are. That they are calculated enemies of the Quran and the Sunnah, whether in public, whether in private, whether on social media, and likewise within the fold of Islam, enemies of Salafiyya, knowing that they are lying upon the Salafis, lying upon the madhab of Ahlul Hadith, lying upon Sheikh Rabi', lying upon Sheikh bin Baz, Sheikh Al-Albani, Sheikh Muqbil and the Salafi scholars, deliberately lying, knowing that they're lying, and thinking to themselves, well, on a statistical level, if 150,000 people view my video, let's say 20,000 believe. That's 20,000 people who have believed me against these Salafis. So it's not about whether you can get everyone. Shaitan knows he won't get everyone, but if I can get a decent number. This is what they do. This is the da'wah of Muhammad Hijab. This is the da'wah of this Ali needs da'wah. This is the da'wah of these people like, this da'wah-less man. This is what they do. Many of them know that they're lying. They're lying upon Sheikh Rabi', lying upon the Salafis, lying upon Ahlul Sunnah, knowingly, but they think, they make this calculation in their mind. It's a calculated thing that they do. They know that they've got all of these viewers and followers on social media and so on. So maybe the more that I lie, okay, I'm not going to convince, because most of the people don't go back and check. They don't go back and check. That's just reality. Because we are living in a world where if you listen to something for 2 minutes, that was a heavy session. Sometimes you give da'wah to someone for 6 minutes, and he's like, okay, I've got to go. Because that's otherwise it millennial or whatever reality they're living in, or this Gen Z, that the concentration span, the ability or the desire even to go away and study and research is not there. That's just the reality of the world that we live in. That's why, there was a time when there were long articles or books and volumes that were being read. Then ikhtisar of them and make them smaller, which is understandable for the Amatun Nas. So we make them smaller. And then they say, well, I can't be bothered to read. I need to hear. Say, okay, no problem. There's no harm in scholars. We sit in the durus of the scholars. We sit. But I can't write notes because, I'm not really a note taker. So you're just sitting there listening. And you say, okay, well, at least you're listening. But then now the dars is too long. Hour and a half is too long. Okay, let's shorten it to an hour. No problem. Well, hour's a bit long. Let's shorten it to 45. 45, okay, half an hour. You know what? Even the khutbah at 25 minutes is a bit of a stretch. So I tend to fall asleep in a khutbah that's 22 minutes long. Okay. But you know what? The ears get tired. I need to see. So now you want to see. But now that they see, well, I just don't want to see a man behind a microphone. I need visual. I need some arm waving. I need some fighting. I need some argumentation. I need some aggression. Right? So they want to watch some sort of big brother da'wah kind of thing. Right? So they need something to excite them. It's entertainment. Da'wah has become entertainment. So the one who can entertain the most gets the most views. So what do? Follow? Do we follow that trajectory and say, well, you know what? We need to make our da'wah exciting as well. Let's talk about girls for 20 minutes. Because that will bring in the viewers. And then we'll talk about Tawheed for the last 5 minutes. Because now we've roped them in. So we'll talk about nonsense for 20 minutes and then maybe, because that's the world that we live in now. Because that's what everyone wants. And the thing is, when you look at social media is not about, as Sheikh Abu Hafsa Kashif Khan, Hafidhullah, quite rightly pointed out in a recent quote of his. He said, social media, he said, if you look at it, it is not created for dissemination of facts or news or, things that are of benefit. Social media is made to make you an addict. It is an addiction. That's why social media is there. That's why it's made as it is. It is modeled upon that. It is branded as that. And that's why those people who put up things on social media and the content that they put up is a content intended to make you addicts of social media. That's why you find a person will start looking at his phone, let's say at 6 p.m. He comes back from work, gets home, 6:30, prays, sits down, is waiting for the missus to make the food or whatever, or the microwave to make the food for him, whichever way. So he sits there playing on his phone. He's on his phone, he's watching YouTube, he's watching Instagram and TikTok or whatever else he's looking at, and then he's surfing this and surfing that, 6:30. So then he sits back and it's 11:30. 4 hours, 5 hours, 3 hours. And the thing is, you're all looking at me and you all know it's the truth. You all know it's the truth. It's an addiction. So therefore, the whole concept of seeking knowledge, if you are of that mindset that it needs to be condensed into 3 minutes and 4 minutes, you won't learn. All you're going to get is sound clips or visual clips. And the thing is, as soon as it finishes, is it Instagram that as soon as it finishes, the next one automatically starts? Or are they all like that? I think they're probably all like that, right? So it's about a 30-second thing and then it moves on. So now someone's reading the Quran, it moves on to a car crash. The car crash finishes, then there's a snake strangling a bird. And before you know it, you're on that for an hour and a half. Just watching buses crash and snakes strangling animals. And all you really wanted was to listen to the first 10 ayat of Surah Al-Baqarah. So what is social media except an addiction? So what do? Delete them. Delete them. If you want to watch something or look at something, look at it through the browser, main browser, because now you can curate what you're looking at or what you're reading. So you go to designated websites of your choice, binbaz.com, for example, or what is it, .org, whatever it is, Ibn Uthaymeen, Al-Albani, Rabi.net, AbuIyad.com, Abu Khadeejah, if you're really bored.com, Salafi Sounds. So you go to these websites and now you can curate for yourself what I'm going to read today. I will read a 40-page PDF. Ideally, print it off. You don't have to read it on your phone. Print it off. And when you print something off and you read it in hard copies like this, research has shown. You don't need research. I know from myself. When I read from a book, the information settles in the mind and in the heart a lot easier and in a more solidified manner than reading it off a phone or an iPad, even though I have them. So the point is here that Ahlul Bid'ah have various types of, and social media is one of those means that they're using today. I don't say don't use social media. I've used it myself Twitter account and my website, and Salafi Sounds, which is, of course, Maktaba Salafiyah, and Abu Iyad and the rest of the brothers who have their websites, Germantown and others, Troy, that they have websites through which they curate Islamic information, and likewise the websites of Sheikh bin Baz, Ibn Uthaymeen, Sheikh Rabi, Sheikh Muqbil, Sheikh Al-Albani, and so on. It is curated for a Salafi audience or for a Muslim audience that wishes to seek the truth. So what do we use social media for then? The only reason I use social media like Twitter or Telegram is to direct people to the curated material. I don't really use it as the foundation or the origin of spreading knowledge. Spreading of the knowledge is through the website. It's curated, it's organized, it's what I want to put out. Salafi Sounds the same. Bin Baz, website of Sheikh bin Baz or Sheikh Ibn Uthaymeen, same thing. So what I would advise the brothers, get off social media and start reading, sitting and spending hours getting used to the habit of reading. When we when we first started practicing the da'wah back in the 90s or late 80s and early 90s, you'd sit down in an evening and finish a book. Why? Because there were no phones. In fact, the phone was probably the size of this book. Right? And all you can hear is sounds from it. Right? And the thing is, we had no phone, so you'd sit in the evening, either you're going to watch telly, which we didn't watch, alhamdulillah, or you're going to sit down with the wife and the children, you read a book. And you could easily finish a book in an evening. A book like this can be finished in an evening. All right? And you actually go to bed and you think, alhamdulillah, I achieved something. I read something. And then the next day you'd go to the bookshop and you'd buy another book. Go to the bookshop the third day and buy another book. Some of you are smiling because you know this is how it was. Some of the elders I can see in the crowd. You know that this is how it was. Because there was no smartphones. Because the smartphones make you dumb. They might be smart, but you don't become smarter, you become dumber. So I say to my brothers and sisters, be careful of these, drowning yourself in, following the social media phenomenon. Moving on, so the Shaykh refuted the fabrications of Ibn Suhaym in a treatise that is present in the Rasail of the Shaykh, and he indicated that here. And this is just an indication. And there is a detailed rad of Sheikh Muhammad bin Abdul Wahhab in a separate treatise upon this Sulaiman bin Suhaym, which he himself, rahimahullah, meaning Shaykh al-Islam, wrote a full refutation against this Sulaiman bin Suhaym, who just lived down the road when he's writing letters all around the Arabian Peninsula, lying upon Shaykh al-Islam Muhammad bin Abdul Wahhab, rahimahullah. So he mentions Shaykh al-Islam, Shaykh al-Fawzan, that if you go to the Mu'allafat of Shaykh Muhammad bin Abdul Wahhab in volume 7 and page 88, the personal letters of the Shaykh, number 13 and number 34, that you'll find that he's actually refuting the false accusations of Sulaiman bin Suhaym. And he went on to answer every single slander that he made against the Shaykh. As for his saying, that he said, Na'am, قَدْ وَصَلَتْ إِلَيْكُمْ, meaning that indeed it has reached you. It is as if he could tell that the questions of Ahlul Qasim were because of the letters of Ibn Suhaym. Meaning that the questions that they asked him, he thought, subhanallah, this is what this innovator is saying about me here. So he must have written to them because it is the same shubahat. So, and this is the intelligence of the scholars, because they can tell who is the one spreading these lies. So when the letter of Ibn Suhaym reached them, they wrote to the Shaykh asking him about his aqeedah. And this is wajib, that they were making tathabbut with a man that they knew that this is a man that we don't know any evil from. So we're going to ask him, Shaykh, this is what is being said about you. Explain. So he wrote his aqeedah. So they wrote to the Shaykh about his aqeedah. So they made that which was wajib upon them, or they did that which was wajib upon them, and that is tathabbut and verification. And they did well in this affair. So if it reaches you about a person, a lesson that we can learn. So if it reaches you about a person that he said this or he said that, then it is obligatory that you verify that information, especially if the one who is coming to you is unknown. Just a letter reaches you through the door or whatever. You don't just believe it, verify it. Especially if the person is known for sunnah and salafiyah and he's not known for evil. Then it's obligatory upon you to verify it. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said, Ya ayyuha alladhina amanu, in ja'akum fasiqun binaba'in fatabayyanu. O you who believe, if there comes to you a wicked person with news, then fatabayyanu. Get it explained, get it clarified. يعني يتثبتوا. تثبتوا meaning that you should verify news. أن تصيبوا قوما بجهالة فتصبحوا على ما فعلتم نادمين. So that, as Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala continued to say in this regard, lest you harm a people out of ignorance and become regretful over what you have done. So if only, so now Shaykh al-Fawzan relates it to the affair of the students of knowledge today. So he said, if only the students of knowledge and the youth today were to traverse this manhaj. So now he's giving a nasiha to us, as students of knowledge. Inshallah, may Allah accept us as students of knowledge. And the youth today to traverse upon this manhaj and make tathabbut, verify. And would abandon instigation. That the students of knowledge should abandon this instigation and hurling of accusations between them. Because they are brothers and students of knowledge, and their aqeedah, walillahi alhamd, is one. We're upon one aqeedah, one methodology, one manhaj. We follow the way of the Sahaba. So therefore, if someone comes to me with news again about my brother, who's a Salafi, a Sunni, then I should verify it and say, where did he say that? You're saying you're making accusations against him. Where? Show me. Show me. And then if it's found to be truthful, what do? You go to him. To go to him. So if they were to abandon this hurling of accusations and allegations, and they were to verify whatever is between them, and if something can be verified from what is said, then there is advice that is given between them to rectify. And not to take to publicizing false accusations and allegations with speech. This is not permissible at all. Tathabbut is wajib. So if something is verified, then you advise the one who made that error, who made the mistake, that is in opposition. Because he is a human being. We are humans. We're not ma'soomeen. We are not infallible. So then finally in the final sentence, before they call the adhan, was the adhan already done? Okay. He said, Shaykh al-Fawzan, there is another individual whose name is Abdullah bin Suhaim. So this is Sulaiman bin Suhaim. There is another individual called Abdullah bin Suhaim, and he is from the students of Shaykh al-Islam Muhammad bin Abdul Wahhab. And he was a good man, a righteous man. So do not confuse Abdullah bin Suhaim, who is a Rajulun Salih, is a good man, between Sulaiman bin Suhaim, who is the Kadhab, Mubtadi', innovator, who lied against Shaykh al-Islam Muhammad bin Abdul Wahhab. Jazakumullahu khairan. Ikhwa, sorry about the length of today's dars, but I just needed to finish that, so I didn't have to do it into two parts. Jazakumullahu khairan. Alhamdulillahi Rabbil Alameen. Wa sallallahu ala nabiyyina Muhammad wa ala alihi wa sahbihi ajma'in.
Allahu Akbar. Allahu Akbar. Allahu Akbar. Allahu Akbar. أشهد أن لا إله إلا الله أشهد أن لا إله إلا الله أشهد أن محمدا رسول الله أشهد أن محمدا رسول الله حي على الصلاة حي على الصلاة حي على الفلاح حي على الفلاح الله أكبر الله أكبر لا إله إلا الله.
Anyone know? Oh. No. I'll finish by 10, inshallah. It gives us 3 minutes here, inshallah. Barakallahu feekum. 3-ish. Many Muslims take part in politics as we need to improve the condition of Muslims and uphold their rights. It's good to have Muslim MPs and, I don't know what that says, mayors, so they can speak out for the Muslims. the current government are oppressive and this needs to change. Is it okay for me to partake in politics? May Allah bless you. May Allah bless you and guide you, ya akhi. No. Because history has shown us, even recent history, and history over the last few decades in the West, and especially since you are living in Britain, that no improvement has taken place by the appointment of MPs, Muslim MPs in Parliament, or mayors, or councillors, nothing. In fact, the corruption has increased, and these people are seen as our representatives, and they don't represent us. They represent their own interests. These MPs who come into power and they say, we are Muslim, they say, well, he wasn't a good Muslim, we're going to put a good Muslim in. How do you put a good Muslim in? Which good Muslim is going to sit in the House of Parliament and give the pledge to the crown and so on? So there's nothing that has come good out of appointing Muslim MPs and even voting for these people. Whoever you vote for, because there's two basically parties that you're either going to vote for one or you're going to vote for the other, and they call this a freedom of choice. Freedom of choice between what? Between evil and more evil? Or between evil and slightly less evil? Between one devil and another devil? In reality, there is nothing good has come out of voting in this country. Yes, the current government is oppressive and we need to change this. How many more Muslims do you want in Parliament? How many more people of colour do you want in Parliament? What have they achieved for the Muslims? What have they achieved for the people of colour? For the various ethnicities and races, whether in this country, whether in France, whether in Germany, whether in America. What has been achieved in Canada? Nothing. Has Islam improved? Has our role as people living in this country and our rights in this country improved? The Islamophobia has increased. Racism has increased. Enmity towards us and, all of this anti-Islamic and anti-ethnic, speech has not decreased, it's only increased. And what have these MPs done? What has the Mayor of London done for you? Join the LGBT Pride March? What has he done for you? What has he done for Islam? More to the point. Right? Forget, I don't need anything from them, alhamdulillah. But what has he done for Islam except give Islam a bad name? So no, we don't need to. And you want to change the government in this country? I'll give you the solution, ya akhi. Get out. Go to your own country. Go to a Muslim country. Go to a land where Islam is prevalent. And every person that you see in the street you're not going to get Islamophobic comments from them. Go and live in the Gulf countries. Go and live in the North African countries where Islam is prevalent. You hear the adhan 5 times a day, which moves us to the final question. A 14-year-old Pakistani boy has apostated to Christianity. What should his parents do? Why did this happen? You asking me? Ask his parents why it happened. You send them to secular schools and state schools, and they're fed with atheism and Big Bang cosmology and Darwinism and evolution and Christmas and discos and Easter and Diwali. And then you say, what happened? What do you think happened? If you take a human being and you throw them in the ocean and he comes back out and you say, why are you wet? Why do you think he's wet? Because you threw him in the water. That's why he's wet. What can we do to stop our young Muslims apostating? Make hijrah to Muslim countries. Learn your deen, study your deen, put your children, keep them close to you, teach them sunnah, teach them tawheed, salafiyah. Teach them to be proud of their religion, dress like Muslims, attend the durus whilst you're here in Britain. At the Salafi Masajid, Masjid bin Baz, Masjid Sunnah in Alperton, Darus Sunnah in Shepherd's Bush, Masjid Sunnah in Cromford, Masjid or Markaz Mu'adh in Slough. Go there regularly, take your children, take your families and benefit for yourselves. So your children are raised upon Kitab and Sunnah and having a sense of pride over the fact that they are Muslims and they have an Islamic heritage. Why would you stop worshipping one God and start worshipping 3? Why would you worship a cross made out of wood rather than worshipping Allah, the Lord of the worlds? Why would you ascribe to Allah a son and lie upon Allah instead of worshipping one Lord alone? Except that his fitrah, his innate nature has been corrupted. His mind has been corrupted at the age of 14. Were the parents asleep whilst you were raising your children? What were you doing? You send your children to state schools. What's this state school in London that has banned the prayer now. Do you think that this state school, free school they call it, right, that has banned the prayer for the students and the pupils from praying in the school, do you think that the number of Muslim children in the school will reduce? I don't think so. It's not going to reduce. Because really, they don't care. They say, oh, we got a fatwa, they can go home and pray all 3 prayers in one go. All right? This is the reality of this country. Now the precedent has been set. So that's a landmark ruling. Every school can do that. And what has happened in that school is felt by many other schools up and down the country in inner city populated or ethnically rich populated areas where Muslims live and thrive, and their children go to school and they don't pray. They don't pray. Because the parents don't tell them, make sure you go to school, make sure that there's, if you're going to if you're forced to enroll in a child in a school, you'd go to the school and say, right, where's my child going to pray? First question you'd ask, is there a prayer room where my child can pray? Right? And they don't, because they're not concerned. When do they get upset? When they say, oh, my 14-year-old has become a Christian or an apostate, or he's become an atheist or agnostic or whatever. And this is happening everywhere, barakallahu feekum. Protect yourselves, protect your families, learn your deen, make your plans to get out of this country. You shouldn't be sitting here in 10 years from now still thinking, well, I'm still making my plans. You should be out. At the first opportunity, you should be out. If you can't leave permanently, leave for long periods of time. You can get 3 months. Is it 3 months in Saudi now? 6 months. Go and stay in Saudi for 6 months. Come back, work for 6 months, put your money together, go back to Saudi for 6 months. If you're from Pakistan, go to Pakistan. If you're from Somalia, go to Somalia. If you're from Egypt, go Egypt. If you're from Morocco, go Morocco. What you doing here, ya ikhwa? Ikhwati, what you doing here? What we doing here? Someone said to me today, well, going to those countries is a bit poor. And I said, have you driven from my house to the masjid? Talk to me about poor countries. This is a third world country. Rats cross the road in some of these inner city areas. I've seen it with my own eyes. Rubbish thrown on the sides of the roads. Open bin bags stinking on the roads. And these are the areas, these are the inner city areas, because very few Muslims live in, those areas of wealth and prosperity on the outskirts of the cities. Very few Muslims. Most of them live in inner city areas. That's how they're living. You left your country for this? You left those mountains and valleys and fields and farms for this? To live in what? A 2-bedroom house with 8 people? Or a 3-bedroom house with 8 people and 1 bathroom? You queue up for Fajr for the bathroom to make wudu. By the time it's your turn, Fajr is finished. And you go to those lands and you see the vastness of our lands that these people went to hundreds of years ago to strip them of their resources and their minerals. And it is on the back of those countries that the Industrial Revolution in Europe was built. Industrial Revolution didn't start here in a vacuum. They stripped the lands of Africa and the subcontinent. India was not called the jewel of the crown for nothing. In fact, there is literally the jewel of India in the crown jewels today called Kohinoor. Literally. Not only did they strip it figuratively, they actually stripped it physically. This is how these lands were built. But now, that period is over. Now they're in decline. As they're declining, all the manufacturing is going east. All of these huge companies, multinationals, are going east to have all of their manufacturing done. Whether Indonesia, Malaysia, Bangladesh, Pakistan, China, all of them. Where's your iPhone made? What? In Watford? Where's your iPhone made? China. Where's your t-shirt made? Have a look. Bangladesh, Pakistan, Sri Lanka, Indonesia. They're moving eastward because that's where the prosperity is coming from now. But we're still clinging on here to these depressed third world countries. Right? And I'm not saying you move eastwards because of the wealth. You move to Muslim countries because of your Islam. There is nothing left here for you except ridicule, mockery, looked down upon, spat upon. Every time you open up the newspaper, look what they're saying about the Muslims. You're not satisfied with what they've done in Palestine. You don't see the hypocrisy. You're still blind. You still got your eyes closed. Your ears, you got your fingers in your ears. You think marching outside the Houses of Parliament is going to change anything in Palestine? You don't see the hypocrisy of what they're doing in Palestine to those Muslims over there? Where's the democracy, the so-called myth of democracy and freedom and protecting the rights of other people, when they treat Muslims worse than they treat cattle and animals? It's a slaughterhouse that they have over there in Palestine. That's what they've created. And all of them still sitting there and watching it happen. But you're still comfortable living in this country and sending your children to their schools? How, ya ikhwah? How can this mindset be something that we still adopt? Give it up. Make plans and make serious plans. This is not really a time now that you say, well, I think I need another 8 years, 9 years. Well, I've got a 6-year-old. When he gets his degree at 23, then I'll leave. What are you waiting for? Another apostasy? Waliyadhu billah. Atheism, bring back cosmology, rejection of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. What are you waiting for? Look at the crime rates in this country. 100 stabbings in London on a weekend? A handful of them fatal? Where have you heard that in a Muslim country? In Islamabad? In Cairo? 100 stabbings? Is that possible? 100 youth get stabbed in a weekend? Even if 50 get stabbed in a weekend? Where does that happen in Muslim countries? Name one Muslim country that is in the top 20 murder capitals of the world. One Muslim country, not one. From the United Nations figures and other figures, not one Muslim country is in the top 20 murder countries of the world. America, Mexico, Ecuador, Venezuela, all of these countries. South Africa, no Muslim country. But we're still afraid, they're corrupt and I might get mugged. Go and walk in the streets of London at 11 o'clock at night. Right? And let's walk in the streets of Islamabad at 11 o'clock at night. Let's walk in the streets of Tangiers or Casablanca at 11 o'clock at night. Or Cairo. And compare it to walking in Tottenham or Woolwich. Or Handsworth or Toxteth in Liverpool. Well, compare the two. And you don't want to go to a Muslim country because I've heard that you can get mugged. Ajib. Don't believe the propaganda against our countries. They are better than here. You just have to make the move, barakallahu feekum. Take your brains, take your skills, take your, whatever skill set that you have and go back to the Muslim countries. They're draining our countries of intelligence. That's why when you go to any hospital in Britain, look at the top consultants in the hospital. Dr. Hassan, Dr. Fulan from Nigeria, Dr. Fulan from Jordan, Dr. Fulan from Pakistan. And when you come in, you say, well, maybe they're born here. They come in, they've got a Nigerian accent or an Indian accent. So what they're doing is they've stripped our countries of minerals and resources. Now they're stripping our countries of their intelligence. Our people aren't stupid from our countries, from Muslim countries. They're intelligent people. And we know they're intelligent because they're in your hospitals, they're in your universities, they're in your engineering firms. They're doing everything that you see. When you go to petrochemical companies, pharmaceutical companies, what do you see? You see Muslims and non-Muslims from other countries. Don't be deceived, barakallahu feekum. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala guide us all to that which is best for us. سبحانك اللهم وبحمدك أشهد أن لا إله إلا أنت أستغفرك وأتوب إليك